started the Human Genome Project, they literally took $2.7 billion of our money to begin this project. And they made a lot of promises that were never kept. And everything that they thought they knew, you'd be surprised to know that none of it seems to pan out. What they say, they're putting up a front, like they know that these genetic codes and that they mean this, but the actual truth of the matter is they don't have any more of awareness than they did from the beginning. So this has all been proven. That when it was 2000, when Bill Clinton put out into the world that yes, this is the huge project in the world coming together for the world. But then after they took $2.7 billion of our money, then we started sending them $300 a piece to gain our genetic access to see where where we're from. But that mostly came from so-called black people because their identity has been fucked with the most. And they knew this for a fact. So Rick Kittles, the man who literally created AfricanAncestry.com, went on panels and went out to lectures all over the planet. And he was trying to tell people that we're going to be able to find out where you're from through this scientific process. But the truth of the matter is they weren't able to do so. And since then, he's recounted his assertions, and he's actually stated that haplogroups can't tell you anything about yourself. They can't tell you migration patterns. They can't tell you where your people came from, points of origin, because none of the initial process was verified. Like I told you, the Cambridge Replicate Sequence that's here right now, you would think that they would have gone to a mitochondrial Eve of some sort, but they didn't. They went to a white tea woman in London and took her baby's placenta and started the mapping of the first genome ever in human history. And so why would we begin in 1981 and start a migration time sequence in 1981? It would be time-stamped in 1981. So the migration patterns that they claim are ancient are actually from 1981. The reference panels that they claim are verified some mitochondrial Eve are actually to a white tea woman in 1981. So none of this has been panned out, and I have all the literature to substantiate every single thing I'm saying. What I'm saying is not my opinion. I'm not here for opinions. I'm not here for false assertions that are just assumptions that I've been hanging on for years. I was that for a long time, but in 2009, I began verifying my own bullshit assertions. And I've come to very surprising conclusions that would surprise most people. That's why I've made multiple posts about this subject matter. Everything I'm saying is already posted on my personal page, my account. You can go see any of it. I've shown everything that I'm saying here. I'm not hiding anything, but I'm also not willing to bullshit anybody into believing that these things are real.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Jay. I'm a regular on this panel. So my issue surrounding this more so has to do with the ramifications of using this data from DNA and then overlaying that and interpreting that through a lens of concepts that have nothing to do with that. So, for example, it was 2 nights ago, we had someone put up Ancestry DNA. Yeah, here we go, this thing. So you put this up and you use these labels and then you use these percentages. But the reality is these labels have nothing to do with DNA. The DNA cannot tell you any of this. They use terms like ethnicity. Ethnicity is a social construct that has nothing to do with DNA, yet you see the company has decided to use ethnicity, but then get this, if you look at this panel, they're using modern nation state names and then percentages next to that, which didn't even exist based on their own criteria of using a reference point of AD 1500. So this is completely disingenuous and misleading, but of course they're doing it for entertainment purposes, but the general public doesn't look at it that way. They see 18% Nigeria and think somehow that actually means something. Mm-hmm. And that's the issue I have.
Jay, are you an indigenous person to America who's black?
What does that have to do with the price of tea in China, my friend?
I'm trying to figure out where you, because deal with crack.
What does it have to do with anything, my friend? What I just said, my personal background.
All of y'all have an interest in debunking DNA, so I'm trying to figure out where
I'm not debunking DNA. I just said I'm interested in the
nothing that midnight, nothing that he said is wrong.
I'm not even debunking DNA, Midnight. I'm saying let's say DNA is a real thing. I'm not saying it isn't. That's not my concern. My concern is this image on the screen saying ethnicity and then listing modern nation states with percentages. Ethnicity has nothing to do with DNA. Do you understand that?
I'm trying to figure out, because most of the people who make these arguments on TikTok are people.
I don't care about most people. I'm not most people. You're talking to Jay right now.
I'm trying
let's focus on what I said. Let's not try to put me in a box and put me into a box of most people. I'm not most people, I guarantee you.
Are you black? That you're indigenous.
That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, Midnight. So if my background, if my background is somehow, you think is somehow going to, my background somehow has anything to do with the true value of what I'm saying, that is a logical fallacy. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about. I'm focused on the idea. So are you here to talk about the idea that I present, or are you here to focus on my personal background? Which one is it?
I've heard these talking points from the same people who claim to be indigenous.
I'm indigenous.
Okay, well.
Oh my God.
Indigenous.
First of all, Midnight, indigenous can mean many things. I never claimed to be indigenous. So again, I don't know why you're attacking something that I didn't even present.
Because the only people who are attacking DNA companies on TikTok are always the same culprits.
He made
And
But
I
Midnight,
understand
he's
that's your-
asking you a direct question.
And I understand, Midnight, if that's your experience, I understand that. I hear you on that.
Okay.
But again, I'm talking about an idea. So
No.
are you gonna address my idea, or are you gonna be hyper focused on me as an individual?
I'm gonna do
Because
both.
I could care less about that.
I can do both.
Well, we're not here to do both. So I'm going to give you a chance to reflect on my idea.
Like he made a valid point.
What did you say?
Trouble mentioned reference panels earlier. I know what reference panels are, and the DNA companies have discussed their weaknesses in these reference panels. That's why they give annual updates to the reference panels. So this is not some state secret. You guys act like this is some top secret knowledge, but when I hear people act like DNA is a theory, that raises eyebrows.
Well, Midnight, it is actually a scientific theory. That's not
Okay.
accurate to say.
That's true.
I mean, it is, Midnight. Are you saying it's not a theory? Are you saying that it's somehow arrived at through deduction? Or what are you saying?
Don't tell me. Y'all seem to know more about DNA than the
Okay,
people.
well, I can tell you. First of
Don't
all
be
scientific
defeated.
theories are arrived at through induction, not deduction. Do you know the difference?
Please enlighten me.
Yeah, so when we're talking about deduction, anything derived through deduction is you have absolute certainty. So for example, the sentence, all bachelors are single people. That is something that is absolutely true because it is true by the meaning of the words. It is arrived at through deduction, meaning you can sit in your armchair and you can come to that conclusion. It could be absolutely true without you looking at anything. When we're talking about scientific theories, that is through induction. It is empirical, meaning through experience, meaning someone must go out into the world and do observations and look at things and collect data and then generate a theory behind it. But that theory will only be true based on probabilities, plus or minus one. Meaning, therefore, it is inductive. It is not deductive. You never have absolute certainty, which means that all theories by definition are falsifiable. Meaning that the theory of, for example, the adaptation of the species, now called evolution, could actually be falsified if new information came out. It is only true based on certain probabilities. It is not absolutely true. Do you understand that? So that's what we mean when we say theory. It is a conjecture. That doesn't mean that it's false, but what it means is that it could be falsified.
I'm glad that my saliva has theoretical particles that they can extract from my saliva.
I think
Yeah, that's good. So you have the data, your saliva. All I'm saying is that data is subject to interpretation. There is no one interpretation where you have absolute certainty. That's all I'm saying. And my point, going back to this image on the screen, is that saying that somebody has 4% Ireland is meaningless.
yeah, DNA
Because
is not the
Ireland is a modern nation state. Ethnicity is a social construct. Well, Ireland is also nation states are also constructs. They have nothing to do with DNA. What they're doing is they're taking things that have nothing to do with these scientific theories like DNA, and then they're trying to interpret data through that. And that's what I'm challenging. Because that does, you cannot derive that from that. You cannot look at somebody and say, oh, well, you share you share common ancestry, 18% of your common ancestry with someone who's currently in Nigeria. Therefore, what? What does that mean?
Someone's gonna take it as I'm Nigerian.
Exactly.
What about the continental level? Is that also like bogus?
What do you mean continental level?
Continent, like Europe, Asia, Africa.
Yeah, above the like ethnic, it gives
You're talking
you
about
like,
DNA?
it gives you like
DNA?
African. Usually like African. That's what
Yeah,
it'll be like European.
Yeah, to help people understand their admixture, are you saying that the continental level is also bogus?
Well, what I'm saying is that if this is saying these percentages, if they're basing it on reference panels and they're saying, okay, a certain amount of percentage of people have done the test in Nigeria, and then we see matches here with you and that person, that's all it's saying. When you start adding these labels to them, ethnicity, Nigerian, these other things, you're going beyond what the data says. You're prescribing things to the data. You're not describing things anymore.
Can I give an example?
Yeah.
Some Somalis are doing like their 23andMe or whatever, and they'll get like 80% Somali, and then it'll be like 20% Ethiopian, and like people will be like, "Oh, you're Ethiopian," but there's a huge Somali state in Ethiopia. So in reality, they're just like Somali, just straight up Somali. But it looks like they're like 20% Ethiopian.
Yeah, I understand all that. That's why they do updates every year, because they're trying to do a better job of getting an accurate
There won't
picture.
be no update because the Somali state is in Ethiopia.
No, I'm just saying that they just do annual updates of their reference panels. Just 23andMe did one, Ancestry DNA did one. That's just what part of it. But my Continental admixture never changed. I've been with them for 4 years. That's always stayed consistent. It's the regions. Even though they're countries, they list them as countries. They are quite clear in saying your regions. So I understand the argument. And again, none of this is some big secret.
I'm not on either side of the argument either. I think, I think it's the same thing with like medicine. I think there's one point where I had to do like a blood test or whatever, and I have like a weirdly like low white blood cell count, and all of the numbers in America are like based off of like old white men in like the 1800s or 1900s or something. So people with like low white blood cell counts like just seem to be sick, when in reality like their numbers are just based off of people in America, like white people in America. And then they'll put you in a study, and then they'll ask and be like, can we like put you in a study or whatever? And then, so I don't know. It starts somewhere, and then the information grows, I guess.
So then I have a question. You said you took the test and you say your continental thing doesn't change. What does that actually mean to you? Like when you see that, what does that mean to you? How do you interpret that?
They've always been very open about their confidence level for continental admixture versus regional admixtures. So they've always been open about their stuff. Now, it's arguably a bell and whistle. For me, it's just bells and whistles. That's not the primary reason why I did the test. I did the test for the DNA match list. So that is.
So you found out you were like African? So you found out you were African?
Yeah, I mean, it was not a surprise I was mostly African. I was not a surprise I had some European in me. Like most African Americans know they have that. They just don't know the percentage. I want the DNA match list so I can answer questions. And the DNA match list is just, it's mind-blowing for me. So I'm able to answer questions, confirm. It's like a paternity and maternity test for me, because if I didn't have the parents I had or the grandparents, I shouldn't be seeing the cousins I have. That's, it's just
Are you continental Africa?
What?
Are you continental African?
No, when the DNA test, they have different. So if you look at it from a continental standpoint, right, when people take these DNA tests, they have regional breakdowns, which the accuracy level goes down. But when you look at it from a continental level, let's say if they didn't talk about countries or ethnic groups, all that's gone. And they just said Europe, Asia, Africa, the Western Hemisphere. That's, I look at that. That has never changed for me. Like
For me, it was the opposite. And I think it's why for a lot of people that were Black Americans.
Introduce yourself. How dare you come into
Oh,
my
hey.
panel? Nah, Divine. You're on timeout now, all right? I'm gonna let
Right. He just woke up when he heard me.
No, I know
Like,
how you do,
dang.
Divine. I know how you do. You ask one question, and then it's your panel all of a sudden. Niguel, go ahead and land your point, Niguel, and then we're gonna go back to Jay, and they're gonna introduce you. Okay, Divine? Love you.
Well, I've seen a lot of people use the term admixture, which I've seen nobody actually verify the terminology and its application. So in order to even use the term and make some type of assertion, there's a lot of context that comes into play that people ascribe to without even knowing. So to say that somebody has admixture, they're from here, and that this part is from there, that it falls under the assumption that they were purities to begin with, which is a false assertion. There's no way to substantiate that position. So you can see here, this is a National Library of Medicine. It's a paper that actually discusses this, and most people just, you can read here, the social scientists have long understood that race is to be a social category, but to justify slavery, and evolutionary biologists have no socially constructed racial categories do not align with our biological understanding of genetic variation. Completion of the Human Genome Project in 2003 confirmed humans are 99.9% identical. Now, when a person says that I'm this and you're that and this is that and you're this, and it's like they're basing that off of 0.01%. So when they claim that someone say I'm 30% Irish, it's like, which Irish? If I have literature that states from M. Martin, the Description of the Western Isles of Scotland, 1703 publication, he specifically states that the indigenous inhabitants of Scotland are black of complexion. Now, when a person gets an ancestry test and they say that they're Irish or Scottish, they fall into the assumption they draw from the conclusion that they're YT of some sort, but that's not the case. And they're also drawing from that they think that they're 30% of this or that, but it's like 0.01. 30% of 0.01 is a very far stretch for somebody to assign themselves some type of identity through use of these eugenic practices that were developed in the mid-1800s by practicing eugenists and racists. This is what I'm trying to get across to people. Try not to just make assertions that have all kinds of assumptions based in nothing. Most people don't go back into the history and verify the literature. It needs to happen in order for you to have any understanding of modern interpretations.
So the 99.9% is referring to the number of base pairs. This is my understanding. There's 3 billion base pairs in the human genome. Of that 3 billion, about 4 to 5 million are single nucleotide polymorphisms. The DNA companies are looking at around 700,000 of these. And this is what they look at to compare each of us when we submit our saliva with the cheek cells in it to one another. So even though it's 0.01%, that's 700,000 base pairs. So I understand it sounds small, but they're not even looking at all of the single nucleotide polymorphism. Now, when I do my DNA match list, that match list is on point. It matches my family. And it's not something the company can do on their own. They just can't do that historical research.
Oh my God, can I speak now?
No, Divine, you can't. I'm sorry. I got Jay and Niguel have been talking to Midnight, and Trouble have too. So if you could just be patient, Divine, I would appreciate it. Love you.
I'm done. She can go ahead.
No, we have to get through Trouble and Jay, and then because they're just. I don't want this to just get thrown overboard either, Divine. I already know, Divine, and I love you for it. Okay.
Just asking questions.
So just Divine, if you could just be patient, let Trouble and Jay go. They can they can reserve the right to let you go. Okay. And then Lady J's there too. So Lady J's been here as well. So Trouble, Jay, and Lady J. I sound like very mean right now, and I'm sorry, Divine. I just want them to get this out to Midnight before you take this show away, Divine. Okay? Is that fair?
I get that because I was about to shut this whole shit down.
I know, I'm not bothered by it. I'm about to go to sleep, to tell you the truth, Divine. I've been telling you, I've been about to leave.
I can give Vine my time.
Okay, thank you. Trouble. I'm just doing this appropriate way. If you were next, Divine, I would have gave you the same respect. Go ahead.
She can go. I was just gonna say, I don't think we can tell FPS to do a DNA test no more.
Okay, Jay, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, so Midnight, my just final point to you is that, regardless of whatever the matches you got, these ancestry DNA companies, DNA itself cannot confer ethnic identity. It never has. There's no such thing as, even if continental wise, because there's no such thing as a continental ethnic identity. It doesn't exist. It's never existed. Each ethnic group, because of social construct, have their own unique ways of determining who's in and who's out of their group, based on their customs, their history. So merely the whole concept of saying, oh, I have X percentage of DNA from Cameroon does not, and therefore I am this, is already, the way, that whole way of talking, that very sentence is fallacious. It is based on nothing. And I'll end it there.
All right, thanks. And thanks for being patient, Divine. Once again, welcome to the panel. Can you introduce yourself, and then you can add on.
Okay, so I'm Divine. I'm American Indian / Black American. So I agree with what Nagual is saying, right? So he's saying based off of 700,000 samples, right? They're only taking 0.001%. But you also got to understand that they're also taking out, or I get where you're coming from, Midnight, with the concept of that, right? But we're talking about millions and millions and millions and consolidating that down to 700,000, right? And then on top of that, it goes back to what Nagual was saying, right? Like, how can we base this off of genetics, right? If the whole thing is based off of racism, because they excluded the actual people that needed to be tested in order to do this correctly. And if they would have did that, then you would have Black Americans who would have way more accurate DNA. And that's the problem, because it's not fair that I had to pay $200,000 and $200 and you had to pay $200, but yours is more accurate than mine. Right? So I shouldn't be paying no $200. And the thing is telling me that I'm 70% West African. I got 2 mother haplogroup. One is Eurasia and one is from East Africa. But then my genealogy is saying I came from North America. So that's why Black Americans are literally proof that stuff doesn't work and is literally based off of racism and the out of Africa theory. Because if they really was doing it correctly, they would have went back and coded us correctly and sampled our ancestors' DNA. Then maybe it would have been a little bit more accurate. But all of a sudden, it always falls back on Black Americans. We get our DNA stuff we done. Anything we do, it always come back like what the crap? Like why our stuff always messed up? There should be no reason. If you from Europe, right? Your haplogroup you say is your age. I'm from Europe. It's very simple. But when a Black American, we do our DNA, right? We do our genealogy. The genealogy says that we Native American, classified as Negro. Then we do the DNA test. DNA test, we are 100% West African. But somehow our DNA, right, our haplogroup is European and East African at the same time. You're talking about somebody who literally went and got their DNA test done, and that came back with 2 mother haplogroups, not one. How did that happen? Why do I have 2 mother haplogroups, one that's white tea and one that's black? And you can't use that whole, well, you're mixed. No, because you're supposed to have one maternal bloodline, right? And if they're taking these so-called 700,000, then there should be no reason why the original Black Americans haplogroup is splitting into 2. And this is why what Nagual is saying is it's all based off of a racist theory. And that's why they are it's already been proven. They've been going into Black Americans samples and throwing out everything. They're literally just throwing everything out so they can fit the narrative of slavery. But they can't understand